I would not be surprised at all to see number 3 seed UConn emerge from the Portland 3 region and get to yet another Final Four. They're a much improved team from the one we saw lose 5 games in the non-conference. Each one of those losses to a team who has at least a 3 seed in this tournament. Paige Bueckers is having another Player of the Year caliber season, leading UConn in scoring, steals, and block shots. Aaliyah Edwards is having an All-American campaign. And while UConn has some youth, 2 freshmen in their starting lineup, remember that the other 3 starters have been to multiple Final Fours, only 2 years removed from playing in the national title game. And no one has been better at preparing his team for March than Gino Auriemma, 11 national championships. Don't sleep on the Huskies this year.
Speaking of Gino, when I talked to him before the season started, he didn't say snake bit when it comes to injuries, but that's what he meant. Just look at this. 3 years back, Fudd and Bueckers both missed double-digit games with foot and knee injuries, right? Then last season, it was Bueckers and Ice Brady, who missed the entire year with knee injuries, not to mention Fudd, who missed another 20-plus that year as well. And then, of course, the Huskies saw another season-ending injury when Fudd tore her ACL 2 games into this current season. So she and Bueckers have played only 17 games together in 3 years.
Wow.
As for Bueckers, well, she's been a stabilizing force and appears to be back to the player who was the National Player of the Year in high school and during her freshman year at UConn. The junior averaged over 20 points a game during the regular season and was absolutely dominant during the Huskies' title run through the Big East Tournament. And just like that, we mentioned Paige Bueckers, and here she is, the Big East Player of the Year. Thanks for joining us here on SportsCenter, Paige. When you face Jackson State on Saturday, it will have been 720 days since you last played in an NCAA tournament game. What kind of thoughts are you processing?
Well, first, thank you for having me, but I never even knew that number, but that's actually insane to hear. Just around 2 years of not playing in the most important part of basketball, in which you prepare for your entire life. So before the Big East tournament, I just told myself to embrace it, just to have fun. This is what you prepare your entire life for. And I don't know, hearing that number is crazy, but I'm extremely grateful to be playing basketball again.
It really does put it into perspective. And of course, for the folks at home, you missed all of last season after tearing your ACL, but your comeback has been even more elite than your debut when you won AP Player of the Year as a freshman. Where have you impressed yourself the most this season?
I think in terms of using my strength and what I did that entire offseason, coming back, rehabbing from my ACL. I've kind of sort of turned into a power forward with all the injuries that we have here at UConn, and just to imagine freshman Paige guarding the forwards, guarding the fours, rebounding, defending at the level that I am now, I think is the most surprising part for me, and also the most rewarding, seeing all that hard work pay off.
You mentioned the injuries. Only one player has been available for every game the last 3 seasons. That was Aaliyah Edwards. And then she got hurt in the Big East tournament when she broke her nose. How has this team coped with an unprecedented level of injuries?
Resilience, a whole lot of faith. Our team has a great group of girls who have a great group of faith and just confidence in each other. And when you've been dealt so many blows, you kind of just adapt to every single one. And just the resilience, I've never seen it before, all of this stuff happening at once, and this many blows, but just to lean on each other for strength, and just the perseverance to get through anything. And we're at UConn, everybody expects us to win no matter if there's 4 people on the floor. So just having that mentality and embracing it has really gotten us through.
I love that you say we are UConn and everyone expects us to win. Do you feel like at all, though, that your team's flying under the radar a little bit this season?
I mean, yeah, a little bit. It's because of the UConn standard, and we've had 5 losses, and the beginning of the season was a little rough, and an expected season for UConn is really to go undefeated and beat every single person you play. But it just shows the talent level inside women's college basketball, and this spread out stardom and just talent level individual wise and team wise. But I do think sort of under the radar, but also knowing that it's what is to be expected of UConn, really.
It really is the duality of that, the expectation and also being an underdog. And I mentioned the injuries, Paige. Despite the injuries, you're one of the best in UConn history when it comes to tournament time. You average 18.6 points per game. That puts you in the company of Maya Moore, Brianna Stewart, and Diana Taurasi. What is it about high-stakes moments that sees you elevate your game?
It's just like when I played at the park as a little kid, as a 5 or 6-year-old, it's what you envision, embracing those moments and all those hours in the gym with nobody watching, all those hours in the weight room with nobody watching. It's what you really prepare for, and you want to perform your best on the biggest stage at the biggest level, and just to be up there with those names is really insane because it's the GOATs of women's basketball. So it's just a lot of hard work and confidence, and yeah, a lot of work behind the scenes.
Do you ever tap into that GOAT network for advice or just as inspiration?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of them being UConn alums, I'm just always talking to them when they come back and visit. We have their numbers, we can chat whenever, but a lot of it is handling the pressure at UConn, and they've experienced it for the entire 4 years and excelled at it. So just definitely tapping into what they've experienced and try to learn from them and really use that relationship for good.
And speaking of great players, you are in the same region as top seed USC and freshman player of the year Juju Watkins. As someone who knows Paige, what's the toughest part of carrying a team as a freshman?
I think just not letting the outside voices get to you, the expectations and the pressures you're dealing with, and it's your first year of college basketball. It can be insane in a lot of times. So just honestly, during the tournament time, just delete all social media, lock out all those outside voices trying to get in and interrupt the flow of your team. But yeah, just staying confident and sticking to what's gotten you to the tournament and what's gotten you through the entire year playing your best basketball, and not really letting the pressure get to you.
Okay, well, while us fans salivate at the prospect of a UConn versus USC Elite Eight matchup, we will let you focus on what actually is a first-round matchup with Jackson State Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Paige Bueckers, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck in the tournament.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.